Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. All right, let's talk about the FIFA Club World Cup. So just before we get to more understanding, so the FIFA Club World Cup is supposed to be happening this summer. A lot of people has a lot of controversy in it because obviously when you have more than now recently, a lot of players have been speaking out of the fact that right now the players are playing a lot of matches, that they're being overworked, and that the solution would be to play less unnecessary matches. And then FIFA brings out, well, look, the Club World Cup. And so, if it was one of those things where it was like read the room, I don't think FIFA has been paying too much attention, because nobody wants this FIFA Club World Cup. Players are speaking out on it. Well, maybe not speaking out all specifically towards the FIFA Club World Cup, but have been speaking out on the fact that they are just being overworked and want to be able to actually rest. And if FIFA's like, fuck you, you're going to play this tournament whether you like it or not. And that's exactly what it is. So, if you guys don't know, the FIFA Club World Cup is set to be 32 teams and 63 matches in total. Obviously, not everyone's going to have to play those many matches, but dispersed into group play, going into the knockout rounds, and then obviously to the final. Though essentially the total amount of games would be 63 games, but still, regardless of the fact a lot of these players, especially if you're talking about European based players that play in Europe, they're probably near the conclusion of their season. Maybe if you're in a Champions League final, you're coming off of just a long season, right? Just in general, a long season, and then this comes up. And I'm not saying that the Champions League winner is going to play right away in this FIFA Club World Cup. I'm sure the FIFA Club World Cup, the Champions League winners prior are the ones that are going to qualify for this. But it's just, once again, kind of like the guys that they're technically qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup. They're just kind of like, do we really have to do this? And I think like some of the team strategies, at least initially going into this, was kind of treated like a preseason tournament, if you will, where not necessarily start all your star players, maybe bring in some reserve guys, maybe bring in some of the academy players to like get them some minutes. So kind of treat it like a preseason tournament, if you will. FIFA was just like, no, we're not having that. They obviously want to make sure that this gets as much money as they can, humanly possible, to make sure that this doesn't look like a massive failure, which, let's be honest, it kind of is starting to look like that, right? And so FIFA has placed a sanction that all teams that are participating in this tournament must field their strongest team. There will be sanctions if these teams do not. So, which, I mean, this is kind of an interesting take because of the fact that it's an opinion, right? Like, I mean, obviously, we know what you mean by their strongest team. Their best players should be out on the field. So essentially, if you watch like the Real Madrid starting 11 and you don't see an Mbappe, if you don't see a Bellingham, you don't see Vinicius Jr., you don't see Thibaut Courtois, you don't see the names, right? You just see Luka Modric and a bunch of academy players. You could tell that that's not their strongest lineup. You want to see their starting 11. And I think that that's kind of what FIFA is essentially doing, is that we know your rosters. We know who you have on your roster. So please play the guys that are on your roster. Make sure you have your best players available playing in this tournament, because once again, we want money, and that's the whole thing behind it. Like I said, the players are going to be complaining a lot about it just because of the fact that they're not necessarily going to have too much rest time, because players must report 3 to 5 days before opening day, which is June 15th. So essentially, I would say a Champions League final is usually around like early June, maybe late May, depending on when that Saturday falls. But it's usually like the first weekend of June. And so You play that game June. Say you play the Champions League. Maybe you're that team that you already qualified. Like let's say it's a uh let's say Liverpool. All right, let's say Liverpool wins the Champions League, right? Um so then after that, you're partying, you're celebrating, you want to go into, I guess you get some rest, I guess you will, like probably like week and a half. Not really. Actually, no, really just have a week because not even. You don't even get to have a break because you have to go back to the training ground and stay fit. Maybe get like a day or two off, but then it's back to work because now it's about preparing for these opponents that are coming up. Your first opening match opponent, because then you must report 3 to 5 days before opening day. You have to be in the United States 3 to 5 days before opening day, and so yeah, it's not a great look. At least for like the player's perspective, where you're just like, I just literally put my heart and soul out to winning this Champions League final. And once again, this is the perspective of a Liverpool. If you're Liverpool and you somehow got to the Champions League final, and did Liverpool qualify for Champions League? I think they did. I could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't pay attention. Anyways, sticking to it. You just played in this final. You're drained emotionally, physically, and then you have to now go back to training, even though you just literally put everything out there for that final, because that obviously a Champions League final is like that's the biggest trophy you could win in the regular season as a club team. Now you're throwing this FIFA Club World Cup because now you want to make that matter. And now, in your headspace, like, I don't know if I really want to, like, do I have the drive, the energy to put everything out into a very condensed, I would say, tournament, because this tournament needs to be done, you know, you have 63 games to be played. So I would say probably like within a month and a half, you know, month and a half, it starts in June, it probably ends around July. Then you go for that instead of say you're back with Liverpool, right? You're Liverpool again. You won the FIFA Club World Cup. You drained yourself. You didn't get enough rest from the Champions League. Now you're going into these group matches. You're winning your group matches. You go into the knockout round. You keep going. You're in the final, and you're like, all right, we won this thing. Kind of sucked, but hey, we got it. We won it, right? Cool. And then you look at the calendar and you're like, shit, we got to get, all right, well, we got to come back to start getting ready for the season. Now you're back to Premier League season. Like, how is that fair to that player? And I know that we're talking about millionaires and how they should be grateful that they're able to play a sport and be paid for playing the sport. But at the same time, it's like, dude, everybody needs a break. Like even at my job, like I mean, you know, it's not it's crumbs compared to what a professional soccer player makes. But still, like the same thing happens if you get overworked, you're overstressed, you're not going to perform, and you don't perform, you know, the chances of you securing your job isn't great. So, it's up to not only the employee but the employer as well to make sure that the players are getting the rest they need, being able to have this healthy work environment. Because if they're happy, that means they perform well, and if they perform well, it looks great for the organization. And so, yeah, it's not a good look for FIFA. Now that you're having to force this on people, uh, you're gonna punish clubs if they choose to maybe say, hey, let me see. I'm trying to think. Okay, because Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mohamed Salah, they're kind of. I think they're near the. I think they might be in their last year of their contract, so don't want to use them. Alexis McAllister, like, hey, Alexis McAllister, you've done a great job for us this year. Sit this tournament now. We want to rest you. Enjoy your time with your family. Blah 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 blah. Now FIFA's like, no, he needs to be on the field, and this tournament is not gonna be a good look. I've said it plenty of times. You're just overworking these players. Once again, what's the solution for the transfer window? Like when can I mean obviously July is when the transfer window opens, so June maybe not to work, not worrying too much, but July When what happens if you sell a player? Maybe what happens if PSG wants McAllister and they throw out like 200 mil to get McAllister? Like, does he still have to keep playing, or he's technically off the roster now? Does that player go? There's like just so much. There's just so much going on with this that there's too many questions and still not enough answers to me. Where this tournament does not make sense. Where I think FIFA is just trying to force this to happen and just hope that it works. It's literally becoming Firefest, like where it's just the math ain't mathing, but they're just trying to press on and hoping that it's going to work out. Um, and in reality, it's not. And so this is literally a Firefest for FIFA. I don't think that there's any other way to look at it. And and I mean, and the other thing would be like they're also mentioning clubs will not be required to release players for international duty, which is conflicting in some sense because of the Gold Cup. And I mean, it's only conflicting if your players are CONCACAF players, right? But there is some CONCACAF players that I would say would be probably playing in this Club World Cup. Maybe I can't. I don't know the teams. I really don't know the teams that are participating in this tournament. But maybe there's some players that are CONCACAF. Maybe an invited team that's going to the Gold Cup as well, which starts in July. So that means the teams don't have to send their players out to represent their countries, which that could be maybe CONCACAF gets pissed off about that though. Like, they're like, hey, this is our tournament. Like this is our tournament to have our winner. Like you can't be doing this. So CONCACAF is gonna, you're gonna have CONCACAF be a little bit frustrated where you're like, so this country can't have their best player play for their country, and now my product looks shitty. So it's now this duel that's just it's just too much it's just too much conflict, man. It makes more all the sense for FIFA just to cancel this thing because it's just not going to work. It's as I'm saying this more and more, this is Firefest. This is literally Firefest. Just that it's a soccer tournament, not a music festival. Um, wow, the comparison is unreal. But yeah, and I mean on top of that, FIFA has still not been able to secure a broadcasting deal because nobody cares about this tournament. Nobody cares about this tournament. And I mean, Apple made an offer for $1 billion, $1 billion to broadcast this tournament. FIFA's like, it's 4 times less than what they want. That's that should be a big sign that no one gives that much value of this tournament. People like it's a quarter of what you think it's worth in reality. I would say it's less. I can't believe someone's even willing to put $1 billion to it. But and I understand for Apple TV, I think is like this is a good opportunity for us to showcase what we could do. And I'm gonna say this a little bit, just as someone that has Apple TV, I do like. I don't mind the coverage. I like MLS 360. I think it's a really cool feature. I just need more content. I need more content as far as like why would I keep spending money for MLS three for this for the MLS bundle for Apple TV. Let alone like do I like I mean I do like MLS 360 once again. It helps me because I do want to be able to watch all the MLS games, but like for that person that maybe doesn't care about watching the other MLS teams. Maybe they just want to watch their local market team and can give a rat's ass about the other teams. And it's just like the lack of content that they really make for the teams. Like I think they should do like some sort of behind the scenes, maybe a docu series. I don't. They need to do more with making this more incentivizing for fans to want to keep getting this streaming service because I mean honestly, there's not really much else for it. There's no more other reason to get Apple TV. Like there's no cool behind the scenes stuff that they offer or or like I said, as someone that maybe doesn't care too much to watch the other teams, maybe they just want to watch one team and one team only. Like why isn't that a feature? Why isn't that a way where I just like say if I just want to watch the Houston Dynamo, all I care about is watching Houston Dynamo games. Like why do I have to pay the full amount for this feature if I just want to watch my MLS team? Because now I feel like I'm wasting my money if I'm just watching my MLS team. Like I have to go try to watch the other games to get my money's worth. Why don't you have like a package where you is just focused on your team, your favorite team, and you just watch that? Because I guarantee you, if you do that feature, I feel like more people would want to get Apple TV for being able to just focus on that team. But that also means that you have to have some perks for that one team as well. Have some content for those teams as well. Like not just these previews for matches and whatever that is. Like really, and it's not even that long of a video. Like make some cool maybe do some preseason things do like a preseason docu series where you follow the team throughout their preseason. Like that would have been cool to have had oh, what's going on in the Houston Dynamo while they're in Mexico? Like here we're interviewing this player and that player and this player and that player. Get to know these guys a little more, make them more marketable, and they're not. And so, but yeah, I'm just going into a whole other thing about Apple TV. But anyways, once again, Apple TV is willing to take a risk on this FIFA Club World Cup, but they only see it worth only a quarter of what FIFA values it. That should be alarming if you're FIFA. That should be super alarming if you're FIFA because no one sees the value that you see. I don't see the value you see. I would not even offer you $1 billion. I think it's worth a lot less what this tournament is. And players don't like this tournament. You're making them play more. You're making them not be able to take a break. This tournament is going to be a problem. I've said it time and time again. You have more questions than answers. Still to this day, we're now months away from this FIFA Club World Cup, and we still have more questions than answers. And I think that honestly, at this point, FIFA should learn from Firefest that there was a lot of red flags in Firefest. There was signs that Firefest shouldn't happen, multiple signs, and obviously those guys didn't pay attention to those signs. They ignored those signs, and it led to one of the biggest scandals that we ever seen. Hilarious, but still a very big scandal nonetheless. So FIFA should take a lesson from that kid Billy of Firefest and cancel this now before it gets worse. Because once again, there's no, like I said, this has more questions than answers for me. And if it has more questions than answers, then that means this isn't going to work.